Colourpop has seen exceptional sales every year since its inception, but in the last few years they've had a bit of a change in public perception. I think it's potentially redeemable, but how did this happen to such a loved brand, and how did they become so well loved in the first place? Colourpop was launched in 2014, but their journey doesn't really start with their launch. It actually starts from a man named Walter Spatz, who was a huge name in the makeup industry after he founded Spatz Lab in 1955, which would go on to dominate the cosmetic manufacturing innovations through its many technical advances that sparked licenses with some of the largest cosmetic brands throughout the 60s, 70s, and 80s. By the 90s, the lab was so well respected that it caught the eye of an aerospace engineer named Joel Nelson, who was looking for an investment business. But when he decided to buy it in 1989, it marked a huge shift in the cosmetics industry, because until this time, the industry was so heavily monopolized by brands like Revlon, Coty, and L'Oreal that these small labs and companies, despite how famous they may have been, weren't the well-known moneymaker that they are today. Joel Nelson was really the first person, or one of the first people, to see cosmetics in this new way, specifically buying Spatz Labs for the sole purpose of profits. But the Nelson family really didn't have any background in the cosmetics industry, and so they didn't change anything in the lab at all, keeping the business model in the same way that it was running before. Which, in fairness, was still breaking even if it wasn't the massive moneymaker that Joel Nelson had hoped for. However, two of his children, Laura and John, saw more potential in the business than how their father was running the lab, and so they wanted to bring in a new direction to the company. They saw that the logistics of the company was quite cumbersome, but Laura and John saw potential in developing a much leaner production line of their own direct-to-consumer line of products. So they started a venture called Seed Beauty as a brand incubator meant to foster new direct-to-consumer brands in February 2014. At the time, this was a new idea for the cosmetics world, but even with few direct competitors, they were up with steep competition. But Colourpop had a huge differentiator. Being that they owned the factory, they had wonderful vertical integration that would allow them a turnaround of weeks instead of the usual months that it would take to launch a product for other companies. Over the years, since the very beginning of Spatz Lab 60 years ago, even before the Nelson family had taken over, they had slowly been evolving to become more and more vertically integrated. Vertical integration is a concept when a company owns more parts of the supply chain. So, for example, a supply chain might be the client who wants to make a product, has a research and development center conceive the product, which then goes to a lab to make samples, a designer for the packaging, a manufacturer to put it all together, a distributor, then to a shop, to the consumer. This is very simplified. It does get far more complicated than this, but Spatz Labs by 2014 had vertically integrated to become the research and development department, the lab, and the packaging manufacturer, as well as the production manufacturer. So that meant that in-house they had the ability to turn a product around significantly faster than the industry standard of months of work, all while doing so at a lower price point because there were less businesses on the supply chain taking a cut of the profit. But with the idea of Seed to make their own products under Colourpop, they also were able to cut out the client part of the supply chain, and with the decision to change from business to business to business to consumer, they further consolidated the distribution, as this was planned to be done solely by Post as the retail outlet, which would now be done online and managed in-house. So as you can see from this very simplified image, that they owned, if not all, a huge part of their own supply chain, meaning that they had the ability to quickly provide new products, colors, or changes to existing products that customers wanted when they wanted them at a very competitive price point without lowering the quality of the makeup. This set them apart in an industry that at the time was more commonly planning products on what they thought customers would want months in the future. Within only 12 weeks of starting Seed Beauty, in March of 2014, Laura and John had a brand that they could proudly introduce to the world: Colourpop. They knew that it could fail and were very prepared for them to chalk it up to being a sacrificial brand in the pursuit of trying something new and learning from their mistakes. Effectively, they expected Colourpop to take the fall so that other brands that they were incubating ready for future launches could thrive. But following their success with their initial 31 shades of eyeshadows available at launch, and then subsequent high volume of shades released after, their expectation of failure was totally put to rest, and after only 9 months, they managed to break even. But this success was understandable and could largely be attributed to their supply chain. Even at one point, the Nelson family said that they could take a product from concept to consumer in just 5 days with their resources. Plus, not to make this super businessy, but they were operating what's called a lean production chain, which effectively means that they only made what was needed. So they had no excess product in a fulfillment center collecting dust and wasting money. Meaning now, for so many reasons, they could undercut the entire market with a significantly lower price point without the loss of quality. Naturally, as soon as the brand launched, everyone went nuts for it, and people were buying it left and right because of the affordable prices at around half the price of their competitors, and with creative and really decent makeup products, they completely dominated the market. The next year, 2015, was one of massive profit for Colourpop, and on Cyber Monday in 2015 alone, the brand sold more products in that one day than they did in the entire of 2014, selling 5 to 10 products every second. But by November 2015, the profits would start to be somewhat self-cannibalized, if only a little, when C Beauty launched another brand from their incubating portfolio, Kylie Cosmetics with Kylie Jenner. And as you very likely know, those lip liners were dominating the social media space at the time, even turning $300 million in profit by the end of 2016. Soon, KKW had a collab with Kylie before officially being launched as KKW Beauty by Kim Kardashian, that was also launched with the help of Seed Beauty, to also massive success. But in the immediate time after these brands were launched, they weren't yet really impacting the social popularity of Colourpop, which was flourishing online, with influencers raving about their products for the good quality, cute packaging, and affordable prices, which really became another differentiator once again after the launch of all these celebrity brands that were at a higher price point. In fact, Colourpop chose to take this opportunity to reinvent slightly once again with influencer marketing, now used in a similar way to the celebrity brands that were also owned by Seed Beauty. The cosmetic world was changing to popularize more celebrity-led brands. I mean, we're still kind of in this phase now, but Colourpop wanted to get ahead of that. They did so by collaborating with people that would embody their accessible offering, which meant YouTubers, who now were not only sent free products, but were being offered whole collaborations. This was a fairly new trend in the makeup scene at the time, having really only started in 2011 with Mac's Blogger's Obsession, but then really only got popular around 2016. So this helped keep the brand relevant and popular in the changing retail space. Everything that Colourpop did with their brand was going in the right direction, and they were one of the most notable companies in the makeup industry. But in 2016, they would see their first scandal. Colourpop launched their sculpting sticks, and although the quality of the sticks were great, they sparked a huge controversy because the sticks had really weird and disrespectful names for darker shades, like Yikes and Typo, while the lighter shades had names that were more demure and light, like Castle and Gummy Bear. Moyo Ayepe, an up-and-coming beauty blogger at the time, was so enraged by this controversy that she wrote an entire open letter on Affinity Magazine's website to the officials of Colourpop to express her grievances. This really catalyzed people cancelling Colourpop left and right on Twitter, a little bit on YouTube, although definitely less. And although I couldn't find their annual report to know exactly how much this scandal affected sales, this backlash was very widespread, so I expected to have had a fairly significant impact despite their quick response. Soon, John and Laura realized they had made a huge mistake, and so they decided to come forward and apologize as a brand. They renamed the sticks to names like Bloom and Platonic in a move that was appreciated by customers, so they did bounce back after this criticism and scored a huge deal with Sephora to become one of their first affordable offerings in stores and online, which added value to the Colourpop line, as Sephora, being owned by LVMH, was widely known for stocking the nicer brands. Plus, until this point, Colourpop was selling majoritively in the online space, so this marked a huge upturn in sales and brand awareness by the end of 2017 into 2018, when they became stocked by Ulta, and the brand was doing great again with resonating with customers. They were launching palettes and lip kits that people really wanted to use, and their formulas were great as well. In fact, they were listening to their audiences on social media better than most by constantly asking them what they wanted to see in the next Colourpop collection and actually implementing their ideas, with this example being the best after they started their 9-pan color palette. So, people felt heard with Colourpop in a way that had never really been achieved by a beauty brand before, probably because of the supply chain taking quite a long time. This obviously expanded the Colourpop differentiator to being the brand with exceptional customer interaction. However, their next and arguably biggest controversy was about to surface. After Kylie Jenner sold her majority stake in Kylie Cosmetics to Coty for $600 million, Colourpop and Seed Beauty decided to sue Kylie Jenner because they alleged that Kylie intentionally shared the secrets of Colourpop's manufacturing process. After this, a lot of people came to realize that Kylie Cosmetics and Colourpop were from the same parent company, something that wasn't really widely known before. So the question to consumers then became, why are we wasting so much money on Kylie Cosmetics when we could just buy the same product at Colourpop at a cheaper price? This mentality became so big that Kylie Jenner and the Nelson family had to clarify that they use separate formulas from their different brands, so it's not just the branding and marketing, but also the ingredients used in the products that are customized for each brand. They even told this blogger that though Spatz and Seed are sister companies, Colourpop is not at all made in Spatz lab, only having production in-house and never outsourced to Spatz or another lab, while, as far as I could tell, that was left quite ambiguous for Kylie. However, despite these statements, this trend continued to affect sales at Kylie heavily while helping Colourpop explode in sales throughout 2019 and 2020, thanked also by their social media marketing. During the quarantine era, Colourpop took advantage of the rise of TikTok and collaborated really heavily with the creators on the platform. Because Colourpop already had their digital presence at peak and people didn't have to go to the stores to buy their products, it was easy to promote and sell online, and influencers preferred to work with Colourpop generally because of the higher affiliate income. So with all of this online success, as the world started opening up once again, Colourpop demand hit the roof, and in 2021 they had an annual revenue of close to $60 million. However, this newly revived exposure didn't come without the amplification of several already existing issues. Firstly, people started noticing that the quality of Colourpop products declined, while their collaborations with creators or brands were becoming increasingly frequent, making the public and their core audience frustrated that they couldn't keep up with new releases and seeded the thought that they'd started neglecting the quality of their products, instead paying all of their attention towards marketing because that's what got them the most sales in 2020. However, this also came with the criticism, summed up by Too Much Mouth here on YouTube, that when a company does start to release product after product, they become forgettable and no longer have the longevity of more slowly paced yet more highly anticipated, reported on and loved products. Actually, another issue that is really important that she makes in this video is all to do with the Colourpop Me Black hashtag on Instagram and TikTok, which came from a frustration that the people that Colourpop were choosing to share or reshare on their pages were mostly just white young women. The Colourpop Me Black hashtag had makeup enthusiasts of colour and a lot of queer people of colour as well show up in the hashtag, so much so that Colourpop had to pay attention. Which really, I think they dodged a bullet with this one, because if they didn't have so many stans to the brand who were willing to tell them this in this pretty nice and kind way, they could have seen a lot more negative backlash for this. Fourth, past products that had always been available for purchase started to go out of stock very quickly, causing frustration with already existing consumers. Obviously, financially, they were still doing well as they could sell products within minutes, but the brand was so well known for responding to demand before that now taking so much time in restocking, people simply got tired of waiting for a restock of the products that they had come to rely on, which was also happening at the same time as another major criticism that they simply had too many products, and that was causing customer fatigue. And yeah, Colourpop does need to ensure that their online presence keeps growing, and so collaborations with top creators and releasing new products is necessary, but their consumer is clearly very frustrated over this, and the fact that because of the quantity of products, many new products look like they have repeat shades has also cost them some of their reputation. This was then furthered in 2022 by a sixth common complaint, sparked when competitive brands started producing refillable and biodegradable packaging for their products for greener alternatives, while Colourpop had become known for previously boasting about their fast fashion approach to the beauty industry, something that received backlash now for them being knowingly so wasteful. They did have statements to say that because of their vertical integration, they do have less waste, which is true from their side, But in actuality, they're just pushing the plastic to the consumer instead of keeping it in their facility, which is not really better. But their plastic packaging and lack of eco-friendly products has affected their perceived environmental impact, making people drift away from the brand. All of these 6 issues are potentially redeemable. Colourpop is famed for its ability to adapt to what the customer wants, so I don't see the issues as being something irredeemable. Most of these complaints can be rectified in the supply chain with just a slower pace and more of a focus on eco-friendly packaging. And for the issues with public perception, I think the problem is almost more that they seem so proud of their fast fashion approach, even in a time when that seems irresponsible. To combat this, a common trope in cosmetics is just simply to have a very powerful origin story, which I know it might be a bit late now, but they could easily use their own family-run story reframed to bring back the beauty community to feel emotionally attached to Colourpop once again. So obviously this is a lot of work, but if they were to rebrand slightly and adapt their production slightly as well, they could easily have a major comeback in public perception, which seems paramount if they do want to stay on top. Which in reality they are still on top. They have some of the best sales in the industry despite their bruised reputation, so the fact that they're on top is kind of undeniable at this point. This story is not about the fall of Colourpop, as is very common to see on YouTube, but here I wanted to talk more about how they managed to get on top and stay there despite the many threats to their reputation that they're facing now. They have a lot of good products, phenomenal marketing, and a position in the industry that is fairly unique, especially in the sea of celebrity makeup brands that are launching today. But what do you think? Do you think Colourpop will rise again, or do you think their sales will just continually fall over the years and they will fade into oblivion? Let me know what you think in the comments. Thank you so much for watching. Hit subscribe and the bell for more videos like this one, and check out the Rise and Rise of Too Faced here, or check out my fashion channel for videos just like this one, but about fashion.